Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining Discover Puerto Rico's industry update for the month of February. My name is Xiomara Rodriguez, and I am the Communications Director for Discover Puerto Rico. In today's industry update, our leadership team will share updates and information on the research, marketing, and sales strategies developed to keeping Puerto Rico top of mind for consumers while keeping the health and safety of local residents and visitors as a priority. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's industry update will be translated simultaneously into Spanish. The slides we will be using are available in Spanish on our industry portal, discoverpuertorico.com/industry, so you can download the presentation and follow along. In addition, this webinar is being recorded, and this week you will receive a link to the recording so you can reply at your convenience. After the presentation, we will have time for a Q&A, but feel free to send your questions as we go. You can do so by using the Q&A feature, which is the bubble labeled Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Lastly, at the end of today's webinar, a survey will appear on your screen. We want to continue providing you with up-to-date information on the topics that are most relevant to you during our webinars. So please fill out the survey. We want to hear from you. La presentación del día de hoy tendrá subtítulos o closed captions en español. Si usted desea activar la función de subtítulos en español, oprima el botón etiquetado closed caption en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Elija la opción que dice Show Subtitles para ver los subtítulos en español. Si desean ver el tracto completo de la traducción, pueden seleccionar la función que dice View Full Transcript. La presentación que utilizaremos el día de hoy está disponible en español y puede ser descargada desde nuestro portal de la industria, discoverpuertorico.com/industry. Además, el seminario web del día de hoy está siendo grabado y más tarde esta semana recibirán un enlace con la grabación del mismo para que puedan repasar el contenido a su conveniencia. Por último, al final de este seminario web aparecerá una encuesta en su pantalla. Queremos seguir brindándoles información relevante sobre los temas que más le interesan durante nuestros seminarios web. Así que, por favor, complete la encuesta al finalizar. Queremos escuchar sus opiniones. During today's industry update, you'll hear from our CEO, Brad Dean, Research and Analytics Director, Alicia Valentine, Chief Marketing Officer, Leah Chandler, and Chief Sales Officer, Ed Carey. Now, to get things started, I'll leave you with Discover Puerto Rico CEO, Mr. Brad Dean.
Saludos from your DMO, Discover Puerto Rico. We appreciate you taking time today to join us as we work together to bring Puerto Rico back from the worst crisis ever in the history of our tourism industry. When we first began contending with the impact of COVID almost 1 year ago, I did not anticipate we would be dealing with this in 2021. But I'm encouraged to see the early signs of a travel and tourism recovery underway both here and throughout our nation. For the past few months, we have highlighted the pent-up demand that has been building with so many Americans stuck at home, unable to travel, but still dreaming of their next vacation. Our COVID Recovery Action Plan was designed to inspire them by positioning our island as a safe destination, while keeping our brand top of mind and sharing the amazing experiences that await travelers when they are able to visit. Finally, we are starting to see movement in the booking cycle, a very welcome sign for all of us. We will be sharing more about that in just a moment. We will also be sharing details of our current advertising and publicity plans, which promote travel planning to our island through a consistent presence in digital marketing combined with television advertisements, specifically designed to capture the interest of responsible travelers looking to get away. We have also launched a bold leisure sales effort to complement our advertising plans, partnering with key travel consortia, travel booking platforms, and as mentioned in previous industry updates, activating sales efforts through our Travel Expert Program, which now connects with an all-time record number of travel advisors. While the leisure market will be the first and quickest to recover, we are also encouraged to see growing interest in the meetings, convention, and incentive segments. Our sales team has been relentless in positioning Puerto Rico as the ideal location for upcoming meetings, whether in person or hybrid. We recognize it will take some time for a full recovery in this segment, but as the wise old man once said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And I'm confident that the steps we've taken in recent months position our destination to recover more quickly than our competition. While much has changed in our industry, two things remain the same for your DMO. First, we continue to consistently build upon our core brand strategy with creative applications and innovative activations. Second, our decisions and strategies are informed and guided by sound, reliable research and data. Strategic continuity and research-backed strategies each provide a fundamental premise of all that we do. Of course, we still face several hurdles. The vaccine rollout in the mainland US is happening, but not nearly as quickly as was originally anticipated. The sooner vaccines are administered, the sooner we will see a travel recovery. And the CDC still has restrictions in place on travel to Puerto Rico, but declining COVID case counts throughout our island will eventually lead the federal government to de-escalate its travel advisories to our island. I remain confident that 2021 is going to be a year of recovery for all of us, due in part to the impressive effort you have made to prepare your businesses to receive guests while managing the health and safety of both residents and visitors. As you know, tourism is a team effort. So by working together, businesses, government, and your DMO, we will come through this crisis quicker, better, and stronger than our competition. It's now my pleasure to turn the presentation over to our Director of Research and Analytics, Alicia Valentine.
Thank you, Brad. For the last couple of months that we've gathered, I feel like I've been the bearer of bad news. While many months of the past 11 have been hard, December and January were especially tough as the numbers were bleak and consumer sentiment didn't hold much promise. But it looks like we are really, finally, truly turning a corner. We've seen this chart many times comparing how Puerto Rico hotels have compared to the rest of the US. And clearly it's been a wild ride here, while the rest of the country has had a consistent, not as bad adventure. We've seen both bigger dips and faster climbs, and encouragingly, the January climb was pretty steep. Of course, the week between Christmas and New Year's was strong compared to other pandemic weeks, but the story is the steady week-over-week climb we saw throughout the month of January. We have to go back to June after the initial lockdown was lifted that we've seen 4 sustained weeks of occupancy growth. And our future booking indicates we can expect these gains to continue. Our data partner at TravelClick provides future booking data, and looking at the 3-month forecast at the beginning of each month since July, we saw what we might expect in the short term. The numbers at the beginning of December and January were especially depressing as consumers had pulled back on travel planning. But the beginning of this month is headed in the right direction. While the booking pace for the coming 3 months is still off 53% from where we were a year ago, there was a dramatic increase in bookings throughout January. And this is confirmed by our data partners at Adara, who looked at internet search and booking activity. In the table on the left, you'll see that we saw a dramatic increase in bookings around the beginning of the year, bringing bookings to about 10% off from a year ago. But what's notable here is that while the rest of the Caribbean in the chart on the right did see a spike at the beginning of the year, bringing them in the 10% off pace as well, they haven't been able to sustain that pace, and the competitors are continuing to book at more than 50% off a year ago. I also wanted to point out on the Puerto Rico bookings on the left that over the course of the year, the rise and the falls are closely aligned to when Discover Puerto Rico was able to place paid media. But as you know, it was a year of false starts with us having to pull media a number of times as restrictions were implemented. And the coming 3-month booking pace is better than other destinations in this competitive set, including the Bahamas and Miami. Again, using TravelClick booking data, the green bar shows how our coming 3-month pace compares to this small comp set. And while Aruba's year-over-year pace is faring a bit better than Puerto Rico, it has the distinct advantage that the destination was opened in July and restrictions have not been implemented since. That Puerto Rico has been able to retain a relatively similar year-over-year booking pace when restrictions have been implemented and lifted a number of times, points to a fast recovery once consumers feel it's safe to travel. Also encouraging is that the airlines have retained seat capacity for February, March, and April. This yellow bar here shows that while service was reduced in March and April of 2020, as an airport under FAA and US Department of Transportation Authority, the San Juan Airport remained open while international airports, including Aruba, ceased service. With this, you'll see Aruba's year-over-year seat capacity for the coming 3 months is considerably higher, but that's because they had next to no service in the early days of the coronavirus a year ago. In the Destination Analyst Consumer Sentiment Survey fielded at the end of January, there was encouraging movement in the readiness to travel. They said after a heightening last week, Americans' anxiety about the pandemic and its impact has lessened. Perceptions of the safety of travel and leisure activities continue to be among the best they have seen during the pandemic, and the overall state of mind around travel is at levels last seen in the fall before there had been a most recent surge in cases. So the most recent week, 56.6%, they say, are in a readiness mindset when it comes to travel. Of course, vaccine availability and distribution is the most important variable when it comes to the return of travel. And it's clear that consumers are ready to and want to travel. Over 60% of consumers anticipate being vaccinated by June, but there are certainly differences in demographics. Destination Analyst shows that boomers are most expecting to take the vaccine at 70.9%, compared to 46.2% of millennials. And the boomer travelers are far likelier than younger travelers to feel like the COVID vaccines are safe. And though vaccine distribution plans certainly are shifting, most states continue to inoculate based on age. With this, vaccine distribution could significantly impact what family travel looks like in 2021. While current timelines point to the parents being vaccinated by the summer travel season, it's possible their children will not have had the opportunity. The Destination Analysts report show that 43.2% of traveling households with kids do not plan to travel this summer if their children are not yet vaccinated, which is up significantly from just 25.8% in December. And those singles and couples make up about 60% of Puerto Rico's visitors throughout the calendar year. There's historically been a significant family travel segment in the summer. With this age-based distribution of the vaccine, this important target audience for summer travel could be deterred from considering visiting. So our marketing plans are taking all of these pieces into consideration, as targeted segments will have different vaccination timelines. With that, I'll turn it over to Chief Marketing Officer Leah Chandler.
Thanks, Alicia. We continue to use our COVID-19 action plan to guide all of our activities related to marketing and communication. Today, we're still transitioning between the regroup and rebound phases. Beaches, we know, are open, capacities have increased, and the curfew has been reduced. The DMO is still marketing for future plans and bookings. Recently, a new executive order was issued by Governor Pierluisi. From a communications perspective, we're continuously updating our public-facing messaging to inform and educate travelers about on-island measures like extended island-wide curfew from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m., restaurant capacity at 30%, expanded museums, hotel pools, and casinos at 50% capacity, and the resumption of sports events and recreational activities following local guidelines. We revised our COVID-19 messaging that informs our website travel advisory consumer Q&A, and MICE materials, and are disseminating information to US and international media to keep Puerto Rico top of mind and seek thought leadership opportunities to share Puerto Rico's outlook for 2021. As you know, the CDC implemented a new rule beginning January 26th, requiring all international travelers to provide a negative COVID-19 test to arrive in the US. This requirement does not apply to travelers arriving from Puerto Rico, given we are US territory. All trips to and from Puerto Rico are considered domestic travel. This information is available in our travel guidelines. In addition, we've been communicating this to media since it was announced. We've reached out to hard news, travel trade, and everything in between to ensure their articles include Puerto Rico's exemption. Here are just some sample headlines we've been able to secure through those earned media efforts. As you might have seen in all of our channels recently, we partnered with JetBlue and the San Juan Marriott to invite travelers to pick any week of 2021 and block their calendars for a trip to Puerto Rico as part of our national plan for vacation day efforts. While hesitation to travel continues for very valid reasons, taking a simple step of blocking time increases the chances of it actually happening. And we ideated this concept to ensure we were offering media a different twist to the Plan Your Vacation story. 3 winners are going to receive a trip to Puerto Rico courtesy of our partners, and 100 participants will receive additional prizes to prepare them for their highly anticipated and much needed vacation in 2021. Thus far, the sweepstakes has garnered more than 165 million impressions and coverage in top-tier publications, including Travel and Leisure, Condé Nast Traveler, Orlando Centennial, Smarter Travel, just to name a few. As of February 3rd, our National Plan for Vacation Day contest has reached 330,000 impressions and garnered 90,000 engagements. We have run a small social media advertising campaign to increase the reach of this fun and engaging initiative, and so far we've had nearly 3,500 entries. Our team at Ketchum has been in contact with the producers at Live with Kelly and Ryan for more than a year to discuss ways in which they can incorporate the destination into their programming, given their show's massive reach. We're currently working on an opportunity with producers from Live with Kelly and Ryan to include the destination in their warm weather escape tour, where different destinations will be highlighted the week of February 22nd. Puerto Rico will be one of them. This is a completely earned effort. It's at no cost to us, when typically an integration on a show of this caliber can cost upwards of $750,000. During the show, Kelly and Ryan will have a backdrop of a Puerto Rican beach, and between commercial breaks, they will show iconic Puerto Rico images. Additionally, they're exploring a fun remote with local talent, choreographer of Despacito, Danny Lugo, to do a live dancing demo with Kelly and Ryan, which will reinforce and highlight our culture and music. So we're going to continue to share additional details as those logistics are confirmed. We have additional activations we're executing to keep the destination top of mind. The Puerto Rico Open is back this year, and while no spectators are allowed, we are working with the Golf Channel and tour executives to ensure destination messaging and health measures are being shared. Additionally, we'll be hosting 3 golf-centric reporters to generate awareness of our golf offerings. We've also been working on creative tactics to keep travelers engaged, such as an activation we're calling Population U. As social distance locations become even more popular, we're going to highlight Puerto Rico's outdoor and natural offerings to tell a bigger narrative that Puerto Rico is the ideal destination to consider for 2021 travel plans. For travelers to discover our hidden gems, we're working with different influencers across the island to identify the spots for us to highlight throughout the activation. And lastly, we're revisiting San Juan's 500th anniversary. This is a top priority for the municipality of San Juan, but we also understand how important this is for the island as a whole, because the celebration will certainly have a ripple effect throughout areas outside of San Juan. We've outlined moments and events to leverage that we'll be jumping on. Topics such as remote work, which we know is an area of such great opportunity, and International Women's Day, among others, are being pursued proactively to garner coverage that increases awareness and consideration. And lastly, our news engine never turns off. These are ongoing opportunities to insert Puerto Rico into conversations. What you see here is just a small sample of some of the coverage Ketchum has secured for the destination. While we understand not everyone is comfortable with the idea of vacationing right now, media are seeking these types of stories as they continue to focus on future travel. And to increase the desirability of our destination, we need to make sure Puerto Rico remains in the news cycle. Now I'm going to pass the presentation over to JP Polo, who's going to give you a quick creative update.
Thanks, Leah, and good morning, buenos días a todos. As part of our local communication strategy, we created a new video that succinctly explains what we do as a DMO and the value added to our constituents. The video showcased all of the DMO's accomplishments in the last 3 years. With so much confusion and a lot of misinformation as to what it is that we do and what we have accomplished so far, video represents an audiovisual medium that allows us to visually communicate the impact our organization has had on the industry in an easily digestible and clear way. We hope you enjoy the video and please share it with your peers.
Discover Puerto Rico, la organización de mercadeo de destino o DMO de la isla, está construyendo el futuro del turismo en Puerto Rico. Hay más de 2,000 DMOs en todo el mundo, pero sería difícil encontrar uno que funcione de manera tan eficiente, transparente y con tantos logros iniciales como Discover Puerto Rico. Nuestros 78 municipios son ricos en cultura, arte, gastronomía y naturaleza. Así es como nos mercadeamos en todo el mundo. No solo mercadeamos, inspiramos. Nuestra marca se posicionó mediante la investigación. Sabemos lo que quiere nuestra audiencia. Los inspiramos a elegir a Puerto Rico, a quedarse más tiempo y a explorar más de nuestro país. No solo hacemos anuncios, contamos historias. Integramos la autenticidad de nuestra cultura en cada pieza de contenido que producimos. Desde campañas de televisión hasta videos para redes sociales, las historias de Puerto Rico cobran vida a través de nuestro trabajo. No solo seguimos las noticias, protagonizamos los titulares, ya sea al encabezar la lista de los mejores lugares a visitar del New York Times o al crear campañas que maximizan nuestro alcance. Nuestro equipo ha producido ideas exitosas reconocidas internacionalmente en la industria de viajes y turismo, lo que equivale a $965 millones en valor publicitario para Puerto Rico y sus municipios. No solo trabajamos con la industria, somos parte de ella. Ya sea a través de talleres, la creación de listados de negocios en nuestro sitio web, la promoción de negocios locales, presencia en nuestro calendario de eventos, visitas de periodistas e influencers internacionales o proporcionando acceso gratuito a nuestra biblioteca de más de 14,000 imágenes seleccionadas, lograr su sueño es nuestra meta. No solo prometemos resultados, los demostramos. El DMO está teniendo un impacto positivo y duradero en la industria del turismo en Puerto Rico. Fuentes independientes confirman cifras récord en el 2019 y estamos listos para generar resultados récord una vez más. Un retorno de inversión de $98 por cada dólar invertido en el DMO es solo el comienzo. La mejor historia de éxito de Puerto Rico aún se está escribiendo.
So another cool project that we're working on is, as part of our commitment to develop the ecotourism industry in Puerto Rico, we recently partnered with Pew Charitable Trust to be their official content providers for a campaign that they're running to designate a portion of the west coast of Puerto Rico as a NOAA Marine Protected Sanctuary. As part of this partnership, we will conduct underwater and topside shoots in covering various marine species, as well as brief specific tourism economic related activities. With only 13 NOAA Marine Protected Sanctuaries in North America, this designation could provide us a lot of leverage in helping market ourselves as a premier ecotourism destination. Post-pandemic, we know that eco-conscious destinations will become even more important in the minds of consumers. And that's it for me. Back to Leah.
Awesome. Thanks, JP. Like we shared in the last industry update, here's a breakout of our media investment by funding source through the end of the year. CARES Act is the largest at 53%, followed closely by CDBG, which hasn't been 100% finalized at 42%. Our core media budget is the smallest, totaling only 4% of our media investment for the next 4 to 5 months. While funding sources like CARES and CDBG will allow us to come out of the gate strongly as we begin to welcome back tourists, the momentum will not be sustainable without significant core funding. CARES Act media is the lion's share of the investment that's currently running. And here's a quick glance at what that media mix looks like right now. We continue to utilize our new targeting parameters, seeking those responsible travelers, which is especially important given the health and safety messaging centered in the CARES media plans. We also continue to use our media market formula to prioritize our market mix. Markets largely remain the same without a lot of fluctuation aside from the re-addition of our Florida markets. Our media program continues to ramp up as we approach March. Here you can see a list of the current mediums that are already active and a list of the partners that will be adding over the next month. As some of you may have already seen on our social channels, we're honoring Black History Month with a series of social posts. The first post of this series launched on February 1st and reached more than 26,000 users and had more than 1,000 engagements. The sentiment was overwhelmingly positive, demonstrating our consumers really value messaging surrounding inclusivity. And the website continues to perform well both month over month and year over year with increases in sessions and page views. We saw an increase in time on site and a decrease in session duration, which is expected with the increased media investment. The site continues to break with industry trends and is growing in organic sessions both year over year and month over month. This is due to the very robust content strategy that we have in place. Though last year was not a normal year, the website performed exceptionally well. In December, the site had the highest total traffic seen in a single month. We were able to double the traffic to the site year over year, ending 2020 with 4.4 million sessions. Page views increased by 52%, ending the year at 7.5 million. The website had a total of 1.6 million total organic sessions, which is up 200% over 2019. Partner referrals increased by 26% year over year, and we saw e-newsletter signups increase by 84%. In January, we added a total of 4 new pieces of content to the site, including a landing page to support National Plan for Vacation Day, an itinerary, and golf-related content. And as we've shared before, optimizing existing content on the site continues to be a large focus. Last month, we focused on updating landing pages for malls, paradores and small inns, vacation rentals, planning essentials, and restaurants. We've had a couple questions in recent weeks related to why you're seeing a few more beach pictures in our advertising in the past few months. Here you'll see some data from destination analysts where consumers were asked their interest in destinations with certain attributes. Top answers included scenic beauty, warm outdoor activities, and beaches. When asked what types of leisure vacations consumers plan to participate in for the entire month of January, beach and resort destinations consistently ranked among the most desired experiences. We know beaches and warm weather are always a key driver during the winter, but specifically during the pandemic, we know travelers are looking for outdoor product, which we have in abundance and really need to lean into at this time. Specific to meeting planners, they were asked what type of elements they most wanted to see in destination advertising. And the top 3 responses included images of socially distanced meetings in the destination, what's new in the destination, and outdoor and group meeting venues. This is why we continue to reach out to our partners for additional images fitting these needs. And thank you to everyone who's already sent those to us. In Q1, we've placed numerous advertising buys with our strategic partners, Cvent, and other mainstream MICE media outlets. These buys include targeted e-blasts, social media posts, blogs, webinars, and print and digital placements. As we continue to find creative ways to work with our strategic partners to keep our destination in front of meeting planners, we used CARES Act funding for various education activations this month, including a webinar, our 30-second spots featured on MPI TV, and a sponsorship of a podcast called the the road back to face-to-face meetings, featuring Brad as a thought leader in the meeting space. In partnership with Ketchum, we secured significant earned media coverage in the MICE space in 2020, and we're off to an encouraging start in January 2021 with coverage in Smart Meetings, Meetings Alliance, and Sports Events Magazine. To optimize some of our current inventory of things like beach towels and sunglasses, we created a beach kit that is being sent to meeting planners along with this postcard so that we can bring the beach to our top prospects, especially those living in cold weather, as another way to stay actively engaged. And now to hear more about our sales initiatives, I'll turn the presentation over to Ed Carey.
Great. Well, thank you, Leah. Good morning, everyone. We have been talking over the last several months about the recovery of the corporate, individual, and leisure travel segments. And earlier in the presentation, we saw encouraging news about consumer sentiment towards travel. Travel buyers want to get back to business. Last month at our Sales and Revenue Committee meeting, the CMO of our single largest producing consortia addressed our hoteliers about their priorities in the coming months, what they expect from us, and what our competitors are doing. Our partners are anxious to work with us, and they're excited to continue bringing business to Puerto Rico. And we've also talked quite a bit about the CARES Act funds. So I thought this morning I would share a bit more about how we intend to leverage the positive travel sentiment and quickly activate those partners that we know can have immediate impact when we officially welcome travelers back to the island. So we're focusing on activity with those companies that provide the widest possible coverage of the entire destination, whether it's metro or non-metro areas throughout the island. And through these initiatives, we are paving the way for more properties and venues to take advantage of the distribution channels that currently provide the greatest opportunity for reactivation. The intent is to cover every possible option with e-blasts, trade shows, editorials and e-publications, webinars, social media, and certainly sales calls as soon as we possibly can. Ultimately, though, we want to bring these buyers back to the island through personal site visits and FAM events. Two examples of how this sort of total account management process works are AAA and VAX Vacation Access. So for the first time, Puerto Rico will have a landing page in AAA's website. With nearly 60 million consumer members, AAA represents a powerful platform for consumer travel. And so by deploying e-blasts and social media initiatives, we can drive substantial traffic to this landing page. And then from there, the consumers can browse each of the 20 currently active properties, which are listed by regions. So as more hotels are accepted or reactivated in AAA, more regions will gain exposure. And in addition to these 20 properties, we have 20 more that are awaiting reinspection and another 5 that have just applied. And to stimulate direct travel advisor bookings, we've created a newly updated landing page in VAX Vacation Access. And VAX it's a premier travel marketplace platform that's currently supported by more than 100,000 travel agents. So it allows them to book Puerto Rico and all the current offers, promotions that our hotels include in their listings. But of course, we remain very engaged with the over 18,000 advisors who utilize our Puerto Rico travel expert platform. These really, they become a small army of advocates for the island, and they're waiting to hear from us as the restrictions are lifted. We're currently working on a booking bonus offer for all the graduates, and we'll provide more details in the coming weeks. And I realize this next slide, it's a bit busy and it represents a work in progress, but we intend to focus our first FAM trips on accounts that we know have potential throughout the island based on their historical production and potential. And we will target the key decision makers to come and learn firsthand all that we have to offer. And of course, we will continue to maintain a presence within the marketplace through both virtual and in-person engagements with travel advisors. And just as with the co-op strategy, we're focused on accounts that we know impact Puerto Rico. And moving on to MICE, since the beginning of the pandemic, we've been keeping an eye on meeting planner sentiment and as it has evolved and sort of changed on a daily basis. So I thought this and the next slide were particularly interesting from the most recent updates posted on January 20th. Meeting planners are very optimistic with the rollout of the vaccines. And in fact, 3 out of every 4 of the planners polled by NORTHSTAR believe that vaccines are a major turning point that will accelerate the recovery of our industry. And we're seeing this optimism manifest itself through increased lead volume, as you're going to see shortly. But perhaps even more interesting is that we're now seeing more and more meeting planners who once thought that their meetings would be smaller in size and scope. They're now moving forward. They now believe that they may actually return to pre-pandemic attendance levels sooner than expected. In Puerto Rico, our PACE reports suggest that the MICE recovery starts to have an impact in October of 21 and beyond. So in this graphic, white is neutral or okay, red is bad, and green is good. I'm sorry, blue is good. We all know that we're missing peak season in 2021, but we have a few bright spots like June with business on the books, and we begin to see real sustainable recovery in October and continuing into the first part of 2022. So with this much lead time, we're confident that we can improve on these numbers and build a solid base of business on the books for Q4 of 21 and beyond. And we're really encouraged to see an increase in lead production, starting with the last week in January, where we had 15 leads generated, and then we had 21 for the first week of February. 21 leads generated within a week is the highest we've experienced since the restrictions began in mid-March. And in addition to the most important upcoming MICE events in the marketplace, I wanted to highlight a few of our own initiatives and events that have proven to be very impactful. So earlier this month, we held our first planner partner roundtable discussion with 5 distinguished meeting planner panelists from various US market segments. And they shared ideas on their company's meeting strategies, their thoughts on live site inspections, contracting, best practices, and they shared this directly with 63 of our hotels and DMC partners. Thank you to Beth Bushman and Rita Lopez for coordinating and moderating this event for us. And as part of our strategic plan through June, the sales team has confirmed an additional 3 signature events developed by Discover Puerto Rico. And this includes opportunities for planners to earn continuing educational credits while networking with our sales team, and brings our hotels, our DMCs, and our sports facilities together with buyers in an interactive trade show-like environment. And lastly, the sales and services team is happy to say that we are finalizing several site visits for meeting planners who have shortlisted Puerto Rico for consideration of their future events in the coming weeks. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Xiomara.
Thank you, Ed. And thank you to our executive leadership team for providing all the great information and insight. We will address questions if we have them on the Q&A box in the time we have left. But before we get started, I want to let you know that we will not be able to offer the translation feature during the Q&A session. So this portion will be in English only. Also, as I mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded. So later this week, you will receive a link to a recording so you can replay it at your convenience or share it with a colleague who was not able to tune in today. My email is also on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to me if after the webinar you have questions or need any additional information. I will be happy to assist you. Lastly, I want to remind you that at the end of today's webinar, a survey will appear on your screen. We want to continue providing you with information on the topics that are most relevant to you. So please fill out the survey. We want to hear from you. A nuestros amigos que están utilizando nuestro servicio de traducción, no vamos a poder ofrecer la función de subtítulos en esta sección, así que la misma será solamente en inglés. También, como mencioné antes, este seminario web está siendo grabado y más tarde esta semana le haremos llegar el enlace con la grabación para que puedan repasar el contenido a su conveniencia o compartirlo con algún colega que no haya podido estar presente el día de hoy. En pantalla están viendo mi correo electrónico. Pueden anotarlo y si al finalizar este seminario web tienen dudas, preguntas o necesitan alguna información adicional, pueden comunicarse conmigo a través del mismo. Por último, les recuerdo que al finalizar aparecerá una encuesta en su pantalla. La misma nos ayudará a continuar ofreciendo información relevante sobre temas de interés a nuestra industria. Por favor, participen de la encuesta. Queremos escuchar sus opiniones. Now let's get started. We have a couple of questions here on the Q&A box. Has the DMO has any plans for co-op agreements with specialized OTAs or wholesalers? I believe, Leah, you can answer this question.
Actually, so that would be Francisco if he's on the line, or Ed if he wants to address that.
I believe we have Francisco on the line. Francisco, can you answer this question?
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Absolutely, we are continuing looking for more options and more opportunities to invest in co-op efforts with different wholesalers. But we also welcome your participation. So if you would like to reach out to me, my email address is francisco.blanch@discoverpuertorico.com, and I will be happy to get you in touch with those that we already have co-ops with, and then we could probably schedule some activities. Thank you.
And CEO, I would just mention really quickly, because I know Janine's on the line, and she would definitely want us to plug that Expedia is working right now on a co-op that they're looking for hotel partners to participate in. I think they've only had 2 sign up thus far. It's not a co-op that the DMO has funds to underwrite right now, but I know they're looking for additional participation. And so you'll probably be seeing some emails come through from us in the next couple of days if you're interested in participating in that Expedia co-op specifically.
Thank you, Leah. Brad, this is a question. Definitely the DMO is doing a really good job in keeping the destination top of mind for visitors, but we have seen in the last couple of days some tourism misconduct or what it's so-called bad tourism. Can you offer some thoughts around that and on the efforts that the DMO is doing to attract responsible travelers?
Certainly, and we concur with the sentiment of local businesses, local residents, and our government officials that the behavior, while it represents a very tiny portion of the visitors coming and isolated incidents, is really just reprehensible, and it's unacceptable, and none of us should ever view that as being tolerable. It's one of the reasons why early on we began communicating the expectation of what visitors need to know when they arrive on the island. We want people to come when it's safe to travel and experience all that Puerto Rico has to offer, but they must follow and respect the rules and guidelines set forth, which are, of course, very basic and not unreasonable whatsoever. So it's unfortunate that we're seeing a few isolated examples of visitors who are coming here and obviously don't intend to do that. We do believe that in many cases, this is a product of what we saw in the second half of last year, where you have certain partners, airlines in particular, that not all airlines, but some that are marketing very low discount rates. And so they may be attracting a clientele that is just not used to traveling here and doesn't necessarily come with the expectation of behaving the way we expect them to. That, of course, contrasts with the targets that Leah referenced earlier. And thankfully, working with our digital marketing partners, Miles partnership, we've been able to creatively use technology to target the types of travelers that are more likely to travel responsibly. But as we all saw for the last several months, whereas the DMO didn't always have money or wasn't out there with a message of coming to visit, because we were trying to give the healthcare officials at a local government time to get the solutions to COVID underway, there were other organizations like certain airlines that were out marketing travel with discount rates, encouraging people to travel here at a time when really we weren't ready to receive them. So I think ultimately the solution is working with our law enforcement partners, and that means not only us and PRTC, the tourism company, but also local businesses, making sure that enforcement is a priority. The only way that we're going to solve this problem is by making certain that we enforce the laws and guidelines and restrictions that have been put in place, which of course are very reasonable. So we find it very disappointing when we see the behavior from some visitors coming. Of course, as we all know, it doesn't represent the broader perspective of most visitors who have visited Puerto Rico in the past and will visit later this year. We at the DMO will continue to communicate through all of our channels the guidelines, the laws, the expectations for people coming here. And our hope that as travel begins to revive and we see more visitors coming later on this year, that those visitors we are targeting will become the vast majority of our visitors experiencing Puerto Rico and deliver the kind of behavior that we all want and expect. Until that happens, we should all work closely with law enforcement and the tourism company to make sure that we're enforcing the guidelines that are in place and identifying those situations where someone is not adhering to the guidelines. That's certainly our intent. We would encourage everybody to follow that path as well.
Thank you, Brad. I'm seeing a question here asking if the DMO can provide some guidance or maybe messaging around dress codes and maybe behavioral codes for hotels that they can share with their guests. What I would say, we can definitely offer some guidance in messaging, but at the moment, and part of what Brad was just sharing, PRTC is working with the Justice Department, the Police Department, also with the municipalities of San Juan and Carolina to establish some new rules and guidance to really address the situation and help with all of the things in regards to misconduct or dress codes and whatnot. So definitely there will be a lot more to come from that, but we'll wait for that to come out and help you in any way possible. If your needs are in regards to messaging, we can definitely collaborate on that as well. But let's wait for PRTC to put forward some information after they conduct all these meetings and really work together. So it's a cohesive effort around everyone to get a handle on the situation.
Xiomara, if I could just add one point to what you just offered, a very simple action that our business partners can take is use the travel advisory information that's on our website, discoverpuertorico.com, to communicate to your guests that maybe have plans to travel here but haven't yet arrived, whether you want to link to our website or simply borrow from that content and make sure that your advisories on your websites and your communications, such as email and other digital communications, are as updated as well. Bear in mind that our effort is to identify people who are likely to travel in the future and begin influencing their decision making. But once someone has made their plans to travel here, many will continue to use our website for planning, but the best resource and the most reliable resource for communicating to visitors coming will always be our lodging partners, because truth be told, you know who those customers are in many cases, not always, but in many cases, more so and earlier than we will. So we will continue to message it through our channels, but I would encourage our lodging partners and any others, DMCs and others that may be communicating with visitors before they arrive, to either use the tools that we're pushing out or borrow from that and use that as a platform for communicating to your future visitors as well. Hopefully, if we're all sending the same message consistently and we're aligned with the actions taken by our local law enforcement community as well as the tourism company, the message will get out quickly and consistently that we welcome our visitors, but we do expect you to adhere to our rules and guidelines and respect our local community and our island.
Thank you, Brad. Leah, this question's for you. Is the DMO working to attract different potential markets, like for example, the European market?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And certainly prior to the pandemic, our international efforts were in full swing. We had done a significant outreach to the 5 European markets and Latin American markets that had air service flying into Puerto Rico. As a result of the pandemic, obviously, those European travelers are not able to get into the United States right now. So it doesn't make sense for us to be investing dollars to promote the destination at this time. However, we do still have work that is ongoing with our agency of record, Hills Balfour, in our European markets for very minimal efforts to be able to, much like we're doing with US markets, keep the destination top of mind. So we still have some earned media efforts some public relations and some outreach on the sales side, specifically from Francisco on the leisure side, to connect with those tour operators and make sure that the destination is remaining in their consideration set for when those borders are fully open again. So we haven't gone dark in our European markets, and we're continuing to keep those buyers engaged and keep consumers engaged through our earned media efforts. But there isn't a strong paid campaign right now trying to generate traveler interest as they're not able to get into the US.
Thank you, Leah. We have time for one more question, and I can address this. And it's regarding how museums can be part of our marketing campaigns and our different efforts. Brianna, please go ahead and send me an email. We have different opportunities where we can definitely include you between FAMs with journalists and influencers, also meeting planner FAMs, and different other activations that we are working on. Please go ahead and send me an email so we can connect, and I'll be happy to share upcoming opportunities and make you part of that. Well, like I said, this is all the time that we have, but thank you all for joining us today. If you have yet not registered to our industry portal or to receive our weekly newsletter and weekly research dashboard, please head over to discoverpuertorico.com/industry to do so. And if you need assistance with signing up, please reach out to us and our digital team will assist you. Also, be on the lookout for the save the date for our March industry update. The invite and registration link will be hitting your inbox in the next few days. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.